I was born on 13th Street. That's only 2 blocks from where my barber shop was. And my parents came to Two Rivers in 1921. And we had 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls in 5 years, from 1921 to 1926. So we were all little poopers, you know, in one time. And mothers didn't work, and our house didn't have a furnace, didn't have a hot water faucet. We never had a telephone or a car, all the while we were growing up. But we didn't miss that too much because a lot of people didn't have that. Unless you had a job, like some of our neighbors did, where they had to travel a little bit in Two Rivers, they had cars, but most of us didn't. Okay. And hardly anybody had a dog. A lady was talking to our Kiwanis Club from the Humane Society, and on the way out I said to the young fellow next to me, nobody had a dog in our neighborhood when we were growing up. He says, why? I says, what would you feed it? He says, dog food. I says, no, there wasn't any money for dog food. He said, table scraps. I said, gee, there weren't any of those either. And you used to be able to get bones from the butcher shop for nothing, for dogs. But hardly anybody we knew ever had a dog. I think for that reason.
The bones were probably used for soups and things like that.
Yeah, that too. Mm-hmm. But anyway, my parents were very decent, God-fearing people. We were all part of the Lutheran church in Two Rivers. We all went to the Lutheran school. We walked there. It was about 8 blocks from where we were living. And I was trying to picture this morning how we got to church in the winter time when we were like 4 and 7 years old, you know, 4 kids. We had to be just, you know, walked over there. And even the genetics from my parents, I think, were very good. My dad got to be 98, and he was, I always said, kind of healthy the day he died. He was a homesteader in South Dakota in 1910, and I never asked him enough about how things were and what they ate and did until I was older. I said, where did you get the water? He said, we got it out of the creek. I said, what about the wigglers? He said, we strained them out with that curtain. And I told that story at our men's club when the superintendent of the waterworks in town here was talking about expanding our big plant here. He talked about 1 million sporidiums and those big fancy numbers, you know, and then I told him too, my dad was really healthy all of his life. But anyway, I remember we never had any money. No. Never had any money. We would get a penny for church, and we would scour that with a little Dutch cleanser, not much Dutch cleanser either, because it made it look brand new or something. It was so special that we would do things like that.
Before you put it in the plate,
yeah,
you wanted to clean it up
before
first.
we put it in the plate. That was the only time we really had money. Growing up, there were always kids in the neighborhood. Families were bigger, and you could go outside and there were other kids around. And we did a lot of things with a football or baseball. All my life I liked to throw things. A snowball, a rock, a bowling ball, a frisbee. I'm good at that. I still like throwing. And we did so much of that. And I never got over that. And of course we played hide and go seek after supper, and we always said when the street lights went on, we had to go in the house. We lived around the kitchen table.
Yeah. That
was the place to be. Homework, and even we had a carom board and a checkerboard. And that's what we would do for recreation. So that was always close. A decent, totally decent family. And went to high school, never did a lot in there. In fact, I just came from cutting a fella's hair over here across from the old library. It's a River House Apartments. He was one of our classmates. He had a stroke, and they're there, and we talk about all the people that were in our class, you know, and things like that, and what we did.
Now, but anyway, you're talking high school here in Two Rivers?
In Two Rivers.
Right.
Oh, sure.
And where was the high school at that time?
At the foot of Washington Street. You know, if you 22nd Street,
Okay.
keep going north. And those nice houses on Washington Street, it was right at the end of 27th Street, facing 27th, a nice looking building. It was a nice anchor for our little city. We had 6 referendums here to build a new high school until it was okayed the 7th time, but all 6 of those referendums said no. And I never voted for changing that. Our high school principal lived right a couple houses from the high school. He had a daughter who married Charlton Heston. Okay,
Okay.
did you know that?
No?
You didn't know that?
No?
She's great ahead of me, Lydia Clark. Attractive girl, debater, and everything she's supposed to be. And about 10 years ago, I was going down Washington Street in the fall, when the trees were just perfect. And in front of their house was a maple tree that was strictly in bloom. I went home and borrowed a camera from my neighbor lady, one of those modern ones you could take pictures all the time, you know. Took a picture of that, developed it. I got her address from the Historical Society, where I'm part of that. They have her address because she's a member of our thing. And I wrote a letter and I had on top, this old house. And I said I was going down your street and there that big pretty tree was, and I thought you would just like that, so here it is. I never really heard from her, but they're busy people and get a lot of mail, I guess.
Sure.
But anyway, I thought she got the letter. But anyway, that was high school. Never did much in high school. We were, in those years, everybody did not finish high school. A lot of people didn't. You could go to vocational school, and that was legal, a couple of days a week, and then you were okay. A lot of kids did that.
In place of high school, or?
Yeah, because they weren't going to graduate or attend a lot.
Okay.
They did that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then December 7th came along. We were a senior in high school. Pearl Harbor came. I know where I was exactly, above Schrader's store. That's where we were. Playing bingo up there. You could play bingo illegally, and we said, well, where is Pearl Harbor? We had never heard of Pearl Harbor. Didn't know where it was. And we said, the Japs, all they could do was make those little prizes in Cracker Jack boxes. We thought that, you know.
Yep.
But the next day we were in the auditorium for Roosevelt giving that speech when they declared war on Japan. And we were young bucks. I always say we had patriotic hormones going through our bodies big time. And the music, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Let's remember Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
When the lights go on again all over the world. You know, those
I'm familiar with them somewhat.
There was a little English songbird. She was around all during World War II. She sang "We'll Meet Again," little tearjerker. Mm-hmm. And we all prayed to be drafted. In the Pentagon, in Washington, D.C., between the 2nd and 3rd corridors, was a big painting on a wall. It showed a man in uniform and his wife standing before an altar in an empty church. And he's holding the little boy's hand, she's holding the little girl's hand, and underneath there's a quotation from the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 8. It says, and the Lord said, who will go for us? Who shall we send? And reply came back, here am I, send me. That was in our bulletin Sunday on the end of the big gospel lesson. Of course, I noticed that big time.
Right away, John.
And I was 17 years old. I went to be 18 until the fall. They didn't draft you until you were 18 and several months after that. So I had maybe 6, 7 months, 8 to do something. Learned to be a welder at the vocational school in Two Rivers, where our city hall is now.
Okay.
Electric welder. Finished that up in maybe a couple of months. Went to work at Manitowoc on the submarines. Now you know about the submarines at Manitowoc?
Yes, I do.
What?
Yes, I do.
That a girl. I'm glad you do.
I work at the museum.
Which one?
The Maritime Museum.
The what?
The Maritime Museum.
Okay, is that the mayor running that? Got a fellow by the name of Mayor?
No, the Wisconsin Maritime Museum.
Oh, the
right
big
there.
building
The
there.
big Maritime Museum, yeah.
Oh, Mayor runs the Manitowoc County Historical Society. I know his wife, she's out at Woodland, not Woodland Dunes, but Point Beach State Forest.
Yes.
She's, there's a school there, and she's a teacher there. I had her for a teacher at our Kiwanis Club. Sure.
Well, I know submarines because I work at the museum.
Okay.
So
Okay, so
I'm pretty
worked in
up to
Manitowoc,
date.
worked the third shift.
So you were
Welder at the,
welder at the
Sure.
shipyards.
and we worked the third shift. I rode with a neighbor, he had a Model A Ford, and I owed him $2 a week for riding down there, 7 days a week. And I'm sure we were faithful workers, we knew the effort had to be made and things like that. So finally I was drafted, went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, which was just an ordinary basic training place. That's an armor thing where you learn to be a member of a tank crew, basically, or some other vehicles that are armored and metal like that. And eventually, in about April 14th of 1944, we were on the harbor in New York City, raining at night. We were going to be shipped out to some place, we didn't know where. On the end of that dock was a great big boat, it's about 6 stories high. It was called the Aquadania. There was a ship that was sunk by the Germans in the First World War called Lusitania. This was a sister ship to the Lusitania called Aquadania, English ship.
Okay.
At the end of the line, there was an angel standing there. And just before you got on the gangplank, she handed you a little bag, a razor, a comb, a sewing kit, and a little prayer book. And she says, "Come back to us, soldier." She had a Red Cross uniform on. And for her to be standing in there at night with all these guys and things, I call her an angel.
Yeah.
And those of us that carried that little prayer book in our breast pocket because there was a button up there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Up in the pocket. Okay.
There's the book.
That's yours?
Sure, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay. I just wanna get that. Hold it up for me, yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay. How are we doing for time? Are we running out or anything?
No, we're fine, we got
Okay.
lots of time.
Because I didn't get started yet.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, got to be a gunner in a tank, Sherman tank. Got some pictures of Sherman tank.
Okay,
We went through, but here's a Sherman tank here. Here's a picture of, I had that picture in my barber shop. I got that from a fellow in Belgium that I wrote to after the war. And I went over there twice, saw him, and he gave me that picture and I had it in the barber shop. People came home from the army, they never, if you heard anything, they didn't talk about it.
no,
But in my barber shop, when I was alone with a guy with that picture on the wall, M1 rifle in the corner, books on my bookshelf of Ernie Pyle and Bill Maldron, there we would talk about the Army. And that's how I got acquainted, and I learned things.
talk to the guys.
Yeah, talking to the guys, gotta learn. I give talks to schools and service clubs about the Army. I talked to the Rotary Club on Pearl Harbor Day just this last year. And everything was decent in Europe. I mean, as far as there's no fantastic stories, but toward the middle of December, we were in Germany. We had, we were there for resting and things like that. And we had cut a little Christmas tree out of a cemetery, put it in a pail of sand and decorated with colored paper from magazine covers and stuff like that. And, well, here's the big story I'm getting to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we were in northern, maybe edge of Germany, in a border of Holland somewhere there, when the Battle of Bulge started.
Okay.
A day or so later, they told us we had to get going, get down there. You will know when you get there. The line was so fluid, they couldn't tell you where it was. And it took us over, it was over 60 miles. We slept in a ditch on the side of the road, which we always did in our tank. You slept right in your chair. And the next day was December 18th. We were going, and finally there was some shooting. And 3 of our tanks were sent up ahead to some little intersection called Poteau. Poteau, P-O-T-E-A-U.
Okay, yes.
And my tank commander had the nicest name, I always thought. His name was Truman Luther Van Tyne from Monmouth, Illinois. 5 years older than me, I was 20. He always kept his hands standing in the turret. He's right behind me, right here, always close. You're touching. He had his hands on my shoulders always to comfort me. And he said, we're coming to a clearing up on the right. He says, I was the gunner. Swing that gun to the right and cover us because we could maybe get a shot in there. I said, okay. He said, we're to speed up going across there. So we did that. Instantly, something hit our turret and spun us violently around. The loader was knocked off his chair. I hit my face on the sights, and the Van Tyne hollered, shoot straight ahead. I didn't know where ahead was. I was a little bit in shock. You can't see like outside because you're in this thing. All you have is a periscope.
Okay.
But he jumped out to shoot the .50 caliber on the back of the turret. Meantime, I found front, saw some buildings, knew it had to be the problem. We shot about 7 times with our cannon in those buildings. And I stopped shooting. I was listening for him, he wasn't shooting. I stood up and looked, and there he was laying on the edge of the deck. He was gonna roll off, I thought. I hollered to the driver, don't move, he's down, you're gonna lose him. I will jump out and hold him. Did that. Opened the bag of, everybody had a first aid kit. I opened his up, took out the sulfur powder like we were trained, opened with my teeth, put the whole package on his forehead, and he was breathing bubbles. I think he died in my arms. Took him back to the company, and they took him, and that's the end, the last time I ever saw my best friend. I'm gonna skip now because every December I'm thinking of this. Especially when it gets cloudy and rainy, because that's how it was over there. There was no air support in those days.
Right.
That was so bad. And one day when I was home alone in 1995, I thought, I wonder if there's anybody living in his family. He was from Monmouth, Illinois. I called her, got an operator, got a gal. And she says, oh my God, she says, you were with Truman. I said, sure. Talked, and she said, you got to talk to Josie. Gave me a telephone number, called her. Josie, that's the picture on that.
Yep. Josephine.
Yep.
Okay.
After all those years, they found out what happened to their brother. And they came here, and one of our local correspondents, Sid Herman, was an outdoor writer here for 65 years. Good guy. He's my friend. We were on the fish and game things all together, you know. And he says, I want to be there when you meet that lady. Okay, so he's the one that, not that one. That one was written in where they live. This is the one from Manitoba, Sid Herman. But it's the same picture.
Yes.
Oh, we met.
Okay.
And it was an emotional meeting and everything, and we became so close with her brothers. There were 12 kids in that family.
In Luther's family?
Yeah.
Okay.
When he was a young man, he got rheumatic fever. In a description of him, he was about 5'6", he weighed 126, little skinny guy. But a little fiery guy. Little guys are fiery, they're loud. They'll be the scrappers, you notice that in life. They don't have big cars and big houses and things. I have examples of that. But anyway, in a nice way. Why did I say that? Oh yeah, he had rheumatic fever. His mother thought he will never go. He's a little skinny guy, and he was in the hospital quite a while. But they took him. He had 2 brothers in already. And when he was in the Army, they were getting $30 a month. He sent home money to pay his hospital bill. They were that kind of people.
Yeah?
And he got married when he was over here. He had a little daughter, Jacqueline, her name, Jackie. And of course, met her. She came up here and got all these pictures, all these, again, photo albums with all these things, you know,
Yes.
because in all these years I kept pictures and things.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 years ago, she got sick. And turned out she was getting brain cancer. And in the phone calls and letters, I could see it was not going good. I would send her flowers the day her dad died, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And she got worse. She got worse. And I thought, this little prayer book, and I sent it to her. I says, I carried this all through the war. It was so close to your dad when he died, and I was holding him here. Now it's your turn. I said, read that prayer on page 67 for comfort and strength and everything like that.
Yeah.
See, and she did. She died about maybe a month or 2 later.
Okay.
Her husband wrote after the funeral how she had this in the casket. The preacher uses as his sermon thesis
text.
for the sermon.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, now it's your turn to get it back. And I keep it in my desk drawer where I keep my church envelopes and the stamps.
Yep.
And that's the story about this little prayer book.
Yeah.
Still have it. It means a lot to me.
Yes.
So I got out of the Army. Kid said,
How long were you actually in?
not very long. See, I was one of the younger guys. Most guys were in the Army in 1940, 41. The National Guards were mobilized before Pearl Harbor. Those older guys, they formed the divisions before us younger guys. And we were the replacements. So I was in about 21 months, just lacking 3 years. But I was overseas about 22 months. It was hard to get home. There were 9 million GIs in Europe at the end of World War II, and it was all by boat. Those Liberty ships took about 11 days to get across.
Okay.
And they would take you by, there was a point system. You get 1 point for every month you were in the Army, 2 points for overseas, for the decorations you had, 5 points for kids you had 5. And the guys that were in the longest deservedly should have got out first because they were in all the time. So as younger guys, we had to wait for them. Finally got home January 5th, 1946. There's an old Roosevelt school on the south side on 12th Street where the bus stopped. We didn't have a car to pick us up from Manitowoc, the train.
Okay.
Got off that bus there, and that's 2 blocks from where I was born. That's where we played on that playground. I stood there. I looked around at all those familiar houses, thought of all those people. And that was the day I was really out of the Army. The war was over. I call that my sentimental journey. Years later, I still do that on January 5th. That means so much to me to do that. But anyway, later on a while, we figured we had a rest coming, you know, we got $20 a week. They call it a 5220. I shouldn't be talking this way, maybe. 5220 club. It was $20 a week for uninsured, or unemployed.
Okay.
So you could do that for a year, and that kept you going.
After you got home?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we went to Mirro, which was only a few blocks from where I was born. I buffed cupboards, polished cupboards.
Okay.
Needed $700 an hour. It was a big, it was a big machine with 8 stations on there. So there were 8 covers on there all the time. The first buffing wheel did the bead, little skinny bead, you know. The second one did the top, and the third one did it all, the top and the sides. And it was all automatic. And you just put one on here and it went around. One came here, took it off, stacked them up, counted them. I could even read the Milwaukee Sentinel while I was doing that. I would fold that up like this and I could read. And they were the cheap ones, $700 an hour. See, the Mirro ones were good. They were expensive. You didn't need too many. You needed 500 of those. But the cheapies were 7. So one day I said to the guy next to me, you know, we could be here 40 more years, if we're lucky, or we could do something else. He says, you know, you're right. I thought the same thing. What should we do? College in those days, people didn't do a lot of that. Like I said, quite a few didn't finish high school. And we decided to be barbers.
Any training whatsoever?
Well, you go to school.
So you went to school to
Sure.
learn? Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you go for that?
Well, the instructor in Green Bay had a college at the vocational school there. The schools, the 3 barber schools in Wisconsin were all the vocational system. So they could control all the subjects and the lengths and all of that. But the instructor was from Michigan, so this guy, he was set on going to the school in Green Bay. And I didn't know him, so they gave us addresses of different schools around Michigan. I could go in a couple of months in St. Paul, Minnesota. So I applied there, and sure enough, under the GI Bill, they paid your tuition, they bought you the tools, they even paid you a little bit after you got out. You know, it was a fantastic thing for people.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, came back to Two Rivers. I had a man that was a barber in Two Rivers that was willing to put me on as an apprentice. You have to serve 2.5-year apprenticeship. It's a 3-year, but you got 6 months credit for going to school. So I finished that, and finally his son-in-law was coming out of the Army, and he had been a part-time apprentice barber too. But he said when he hired me, he wasn't going to work there anymore, but the kid changed his mind. He wanted to come back to work for the shop, and then the guy felt really bad about telling me that. There'd be 3 barbers in the one little shop, and you get paid for what you do.
Right.
You're on commission.
Mm-hmm.
And but he says there's Bill Kuglitz over here on the south side. He might retire. Why don't you talk to him? Sure enough, over at Mattis Street, where the barber shop is now, in the Sport Bar building. There was a barber there for over 70 years. Eppinger had that thing. And Eppinger had moved over on the corner. There's a beautician thing there now, 14th and Madison. The reason he moved there because they had public showers in there. And that was a big deal because a lot of people didn't have a shower. So they could go there maybe for a quarter, take a shower, and a haircut. Kuglitz was old. He had 4 kids that he raised, him and his family, above that tavern, above that tavern. The tavern keeper lived above there. Oh, that had to be kind of, you're right. But they did that. He sold it to me for $500. Got a picture of it. I don't know if I got it here. So things went good. In fact, they were good. I hired I was there 13 years. And I had a chance to have a couple of apprentices. And I had 3 guys. They were totally decent guys. And they went on to, another one that had a barber shop in Manitowoc, another one quit on February 14th, 1968. He told me way ahead of time. I says, I hope you're here that day. He says, why? He said, we're gonna have a baby that day. I'll probably be in a hospital. I hope you're here for that. And he was. He left the next day. Our daughter was born. Her name is Susie. I can remember you. and she is a 10 and a half. She's a totally decent gal.
Good.
In a lot of ways. Nice. This in Antigo. Anyway, after 13 years, on the corner of that street, there was a Clover Farm Store. Older people ran that. And Clover Farm stores were kind of phasing out into the little bigger stores and things like that. Attached to the store was a concrete building. It was a cold storage locker plant. Here's a picture of it. A cold storage locker plant.
Okay.
The whole building was zero in there, with lockers. You had a stepladder to get up on top, you know. They said the locker business is slow now because families are smaller, people don't have a garden anymore. Mm-hmm. And we're getting older. Would you like to buy our building? It was just 2 doors from where I was. And the fella that had the tavern, he had 3 boys, and maybe they'd want to be a barber someday, and they'd have to tell me to pack up. So I thought of all those things. I said, sure, I'll buy your place. And we took all the lockers and moved them in halfway in the back, emptied out the front for the barber shop. Had the carpenters come in, and we had a nice, real nice barber shop there.
How many years in that place?
Up to now, 1968.
From 1968 to now.
Well, I'm not there, but I still own it. My son is in there. Anyway, the store then changed hands a couple times. Upstairs was rented, and they had some shabby people in there. Then they had a fire in there. Well, they put the fire out, and the store was pretty well shot, so they tore it down. The people that owned it was Morning Glory out of De Pere. And I knew those fellas because they would come there once in a while. I used to shovel the sidewalk. It's on a corner, and I would shovel away this way and that way, you know. And that guy was decent. He said, I'll sell you that. I said, oh, I don't know. Well, he says, keep it in mind, there was a parking lot after that. And maybe a year or so later, I'd see him every 4 months or so. Finally, he said, make you a good deal. I bought the place, $3,000 bucks. Okay, which means nothing. But anyway, I put a park in there. Are you acquainted with that corner?
Trying to think of where that is.
13th and Madison, the church kitty corner, a Methodist church. The bridge is over a block with Madison Street Bridge.
Okay.
Here's the parking lot. We put a park in there. Here it's just starting. Here it kind of is today, only bigger.
Guess the trees grew a little bit, huh?
To what?
The trees grew a little bit.
It was 1985 we did that. Yeah. In fact, those cedar trees, there's 7 of them there. 5 and then 2, I guess, in the L-shaped. They're so big, I don't know if we ever have to do anything once they get too big, but somebody else can worry about that. So that's the corner there. Meantime, I'm getting a little active. There's an organization in town, there were a lot of unions in Two Rivers because we had a lot of industry. And there was it was called Central Trades. They met once a month, and all the unions had directors that would go to that meeting and tell what their unions were doing, what they were up against, and everything like that. I became secretary of that for a couple of years. And now I gotta look at my notes because they're getting kind of long here. We got got married in there. I should tell you that, I suppose, huh?
We can come back to that in a little bit. How long did you actually work in the barber shop?
I worked as a barber in Trooper's 47 years.
So from
1949. Well, I phased out. See, my boy was in there. I didn't have to have a date like that, so I was 71 when I quit. So I should know what year that was, but the math would be there somewhere.
Okay, 47 years.
47, from 1949 to 47 years.
96.
What is it?
96?
I would say 96, 206, about 14 years.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so then you became the secretary of the Central Trade?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we had a barbers union in the county, of course, and the older guys were dying off and quitting and everything, and finally there were maybe a dozen of us left, and I got to be the president of the Manitowoc County Barbers Union until it folded. When the big shopping centers came along, they had barber shops in there, and you had to be open nights in those places and weekends and things. And the Barbers Union was the best thing. All we did locally was set our hours and prices, and we all agreed. If there's anything that hurts a barber, it's another barber. Mm-hmm. But we were all in agreement, so that was the best thing. But when these shopping centers came, they changed the rules about staying open and everything, so that was the end of the Barbers Union. But anyway, I was that for that time. Then in 1952, I joined the Fish and Game Club in Two Rivers. Not just a bunch of guys that hunt and fish, and you know, I always said they're the guys with the beards and the red coats, decent guys. About 1956, I got to be the secretary-treasurer of Two Rivers Fish and Game. I had that for a while. It was 37 years. That's how long I had that job. And there was 26 units in the Manitowoc County. And there's a Manitowoc County Fish and Game, where there again, you have directors from the individual units, you send them to the county unit, and you do things together. I was the treasurer there for 18 years. I always got a job kind of for life, you know. But decent guys ask you to do something, you know, and you don't like to turn them down.
Turn them down, yeah.
So I did that. And because of that, I got a couple of plaques. I was awarded the Rahr Diamond Award, which is one of the highest awards for conservation in the state of Wisconsin. That's a local group. They have that power to do that. The club that does that is called, I can't think of that. I will after a while. Then, of course, I joined that conservation education where the nun is, the little friendly nun of mine. Go and I give the flower to.
Yes.
We hold a workshop for 4 days at a lake in Manitowoc County where student teachers and teachers come there, and the DNR personnel teach them their respective jobs. And the teachers from Silver Lake College teach them biology and all the related things.
Okay.
They kind of need that for their certificates. Teachers do. Mm-hmm. I supply the fish for that thing. We have a fish boil, and we need about 40 pounds of clean fish. We got a guy that boils fish, and I registered a fish at the Kiwanis Fish Derby. You know, when they come in.
Yes.
And I got a cooler there, and I said, wanted fish for conservation education. These guys come from Minnesota, and they're staying in the motel over here, and there's no place to put a batch of fish. So they're willing to give them away because they're going to be here 3 days or something. So some of us had those coolers there, and it's easy to get the fish.
Easy, oh, sure.
So we can do that. And recently I got on a church committee, congregational life. And I painted every building in our church. I like more of the physical things to do.
Right.
And I wasn't much on meetings and calling people to do things, but I can paint and I blow the snow, and the nativity scene we had on that Park Street there, I helped on that. And they know who to call, you know, in a decent way, do that.
Yeah.
Meals on Wheels, deliver that.
You do that too? My
Sure,
goodness.
that's not very often.
Okay, let's back up and talk about your wife. You did get married somewhere in there, you said.
Yeah, I was 30 when I got married. Most of my friends, you know, after the war, geez, I went to a lot of weddings. Stood up for a lot of weddings because, you know, all these guys and things. And I just wasn't in a hurry to get married, but a gal came in the barber shop where I was working, and she says, I got a deal for you. And she was a good girl. Her dad had a tavern. And she was, if there's anybody going to be the last one to leave a party, it would be her. Kind of one of those gals, you know. And I said, what is it? She says, she was a student at Holy Family School of Nursing, this girl.
Okay.
She says, we're having a little, what do you call it? It's a dance, but a kind of a formal, you don't call it a dance, it's
Like a prom?
a prom, kind of like a prom, yeah.
Okay.
It's a nicer name, yeah. And there's a gal that doesn't have a date, you know, and really nice gal and everything, and how about you going there and taking her? And I said, oh, no, not really. I don't care about dancing or anything. Actually, I didn't know how. Didn't say that, though. I said, but not really. But she says, you can be sorry because she's really nice. Then I said, well, would there be two girls there that don't have a date? I was thinking of my friend. And she said, sure. I said, let me ask Donnie Cook. If he goes, I'll go. So he said he would go. So we met those two gals above this tavern, right across from the Waverly Inn in Two Rivers here. It's torn down now, and there that girl was, and she was an attractive girl and came from a nice family in Green Bay, and then she married her. So, and she's an RN, not anymore. Worked basically part-time in nursing homes. Stayed home when we had our two kids. We always were well enough off. She didn't have to do that, you know, and we were always thankful for things like that.
So did she get involved like you with the Meals on Wheels or the painting of the church buildings, or?
She's a painter.
She is?
The watercolor gal.
Oh, okay.
Goes to Sheboygan almost every day in summer. There's a retired physician that's an artist. And he has these gals lined up in Door County, and there's a park west of Sheboygan. It's a state park, not a state park, but it's got a name too. You'd recognize that name. But he lines up all these places. They go there and they paint outside. And they show their paintings at banks in...
At Kohler?
No, not Kohler. It's called a park. Like this is State Park. Not
I was thinking
Terry,
of the Kohler Andre Park, but you
oh,
don't mean
wait,
that
Terry
one.
Andre, I was going to say?
Yeah, the Terry Andre
Maybe.
Kohler Park?
That could be.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know Kohler was part of that.
That's part of the name.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, maybe
Yeah, I
that's
guess
where.
that's it. But she's part of that. And there's a group, they meet in wintertime, these gals. I was on a pier one time fishing. I'm fishing all the time. I like to fish every day, but I don't. I was fishing out there for the northern. The northerns are my fish. I know the Latin name for northern. Lucius. Anyway, I met a guy out there, and after a few days, I said to him, what do you do? Because he was too young to be out there in the daytime. He's supposed to be working. He says, I'm an artist. I said, no kidding. Sure. I said, that's nice. He had a little studio here in one of the buildings. And a couple of weeks later, he says, and you know something, I'd like to paint you. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, I'm serious. He lined it up. There were 5 painters there. I sat there, just like they told me, with the clothes on I had out there.
Okay, your fishing clothes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the fall, that's when I would start out there. And One of the gals, she painted me and I saw that picture. In fact, she gave it to us after a while. 5 years later, she gave it to us. Some of the pictures were nice. I looked nicer than hers. And I learned after a while, and I will tell you this. A painter paints what they see. An artist paints what they feel. She felt me out there in the cold and things like that, and I wasn't radiating anything, you know, really. And that's how that picture looks. She works in Larrabee. She gets $4,000 a portrait. And she's a nice gal. See her once in a while. Don't see her often enough. But that's the story of painting. She's in the painting class with my wife and things like that.
Wow. Okay, you brought a couple things along here yet?
I'll hurry here a little bit.
Nope.
No?
You got some more? I was gonna have you tell me about this metal thing you've got on the chair here.
Okay. I'm a little associated with Woodland Dunes.
Yes. Okay.
They needed people to monitor the West Twin River. I live on the West Twin River.
Okay.
It's in our backyard. Our lot is 483 feet. Here's a picture of our backyard.
Wow.
It's on Hawthorne Avenue.
Okay.
I lived in 3 houses in my life.
All in Two Rivers?
Sure, there's the front yard. It's a nice house,
Yes.
and it built. But because I live on the river and spent my life on it, they needed people to monitor, take the oxygen, some different chemical counts. They got a kit, and so I do that every month and turn it into them, and the temperature and things like that. That's the water. It says water here. Work at St. Vincent's. I'm the only Lutheran there. But I tell you, that's one of the nicest things I do. There's some old gals back there. I call them old gals. I'm older than they are because I'm 85. And those girls aren't that old. But I just visited one now. She's at that, where I told you I cut that hair.
Yes.
She's up there now because she's 88. She broke her hip.
Oh.
And but she's doing great. She looked like $1 million. I told her that. You look better than her, I told her. She quit smoking. That's another story. Since January 9th. But anyway, I work at St. Vincent's, and on Thursday afternoons I come to the Kiwanis Club meeting, half dressed up anyway, go past there so I can stop there, do those things, you know.
Sure.
So
Well, that's why I
it.
can never get a hold of you when I call, your wife said.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, no, he's not normally here. I'm thinking, well, where is the man?
We'll play sheep head on Wednesday afternoons.
Yes.
Yeah, that's on here in a nice way with 5 guys. And I talked to people, talked to all the high schools in the area. I'm part of the American Military Society. I even have on here, I'm part of Family Circles.
Story circles.
What?
Story circles?
Story circles?
Yeah.
Oh, I got family. Well,
Okay.
you know, you're close. Part of the Historical Society at Washington House. Tuesday afternoons I go to the Koenig School. I'm a reading buddy for little first and second graders for 40 minutes. So I have time for that.
So how do you manage to go fishing in between all of that?
Well, these are kind of shot things. You know, they're a couple hours here and there, but I know what you're saying.
You keep yourself pretty busy.
Yeah, but I kind of do that. So now you want to hear about the Army?
Well, I want to hear about this, whatever that is.
I'll show it to you. See if you can pick up on that.
Airborne nuts. Was this from the Battle of the Bulge?
Sure. Does it say that under?
Well, Bastogne, isn't that where you were fighting, near there?
Well, okay, now you're close. No, Yeah, you're close now, I'll give you 98 on that.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yes. There were two main cities in the Ardennes. That's a hilly, rocky, craggly place. The only way to get through there is go through towns, because the roads went into those two towns and out again, like a hub of a wheel. One was St. Vith, one was Bastogne. The 101st Airborne, that's a parachute thing, glider thing, was at Bastogne. Our 7th Armored Division was at St. Vith. That's where Van Dyne died.
Right.
The 101st Airborne was surrounded there for quite a while. And finally the Germans came there and said to those guys, here's a surrender paper, we'll give you a chance to quit or we're going to annihilate you. And General McAuliffe was the acting general then. Real general was Maxwell Taylor, who was in Washington. McAuliffe says to his staff, what the hell are we going to tell them? One guy said, nuts with them. So that was the word they used, nuts. Germans didn't know what that meant. That word went around the ETO, European Theater of Operations.
Okay.
It was a rallying cry.
Nuts.
They made that plaque there. I got that from a guy that was there. He gave me that. He should have never done that. He's dead now. I knew another guy cut his hair until he died. He was a medic in the 101st. And we would go through all these things, you know, and that's why I never get over this Army thing. I read about it every day. Mm-hmm. And we trade books with each other, things like that. But that's Bastogne. Yeah.
And that's the nuts.
There are not many of those around, but that's one of my nicer things. You got a book here. Looks like that.
Oh yeah, Blood Dim Tide. Yes.
I'm in there.
You're in there.
33 guys there in Battle of the Bulge. Germans, Americans. I'm down here.
Corporal Jerry Nelson, Tank Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get selected for this? Because you were there, I mean, there were a lot of people there.
I got a letter from that guy there, that author, Gerald Astor. He sent letters out. Somebody sent my name. The guy that's in there sent my name, Gerald Flackler. But anyway, he gave my name, and they sent you a questionnaire. And according to how you answered things, the length of the questions and everything, and because I'm into this, I could write a lot about it. So
Okay.
he says, keep writing. And finally he says, you're going to be in our book. Send me a picture of before and after. Now go to the next, in the back there's another thing.
Okay.
There's a picture of me and my daughter right there.
Oh, yes.
They wanted a before and after picture. So that's the story about how Van Dyne died and the other things.
So that story's in this book.
Sure. Sure it is, yeah. In fact, when I called his family, I said, if, you know, I can see you would, hard to believe me because you don't even know me or anything. Try to get that book. And there'll be a story in there from about 5 years before this telephone call. It tells you about your brother. And that picture there is where, not that one, but
You
Me?
have the book in this picture. Mm-hmm.
okay, well, here's that time.
Okay.
Here's Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. That hung by my workbench all those years. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I knew you believed me, but
Yeah. Oh.
I'm just proving it to you.
I believe you.
Now this, I never got over to see his grave. He's still over there,
Okay.
but his family did and everything. A girl read that book there. She said she was, worked for a TV station in Marquette, Michigan. She wrote me a letter. She said she liked the way I talked. Would you write to me? I said, sure, I'll write to you. She's an authority on World War II, big time, in a nice way. We were up there twice. She came back, she came here, and she goes over there. She's been to Europe about 4 times. Boy, she keeps journals in detail. Now there's a picture, see there, see that picture there?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's Van Dyne's daughter.
Okay.
Me and Van Dyne's daughter, and I have that picture here, yes.
So what cemetery is this? Is this,
It's in Belgium. It's Henry Chapelle Military Cemetery. Henry Chapelle,
in Belgium?
yes.
Okay.
Was that a bell? Ring a bell?
No, I thought it was maybe Arlington, but it didn't look
Oh.
quite right, and I was trying to figure out where
Oh.
this had been taken.
Arlington's in America, right?
Right, well, I thought maybe they had just put up a stone for him here. I know
Oh.
you said his body never came back,
No, it never
but
came back.
did they ever put anything up over here in America?
For him?
Yeah,
No,
no.
that's his place.
Just
But I
that
will
one.
tell you this, on the street where I was born, I'm glad to tell you this. About a block away was a guy by the name of Dick Cranky, Roy Cranky. Dick was the dad. And 2 houses away lived two other brothers, Watson boys. Dick Cranky died on D-Day, which is a whole new story. He's the only boy he had. He never had a furlough. I got the clippings and all that stuff. And 2 houses away, 2 Watson boys died. One in New Guinea, which was a hellhole for disease and malaria and the weather and everything like that. He died over there. His brother, a year older than me, died in April of '45 in Europe. Those guys are buried here. There was an old lady taking care of their graves, a neighbor lady, had a retarded boy and came to our barber shop. We'd fuss over the little guy, you know. And I told her, you can't take care of those graves, maybe I could do that. About 5 years ago, she said, I'm going to a nursing home now, would you take the graves? They're buried side by side in the cemetery here on that Michigan Road, the way he lived. And it's one of the nicest things I do.
Well, now, how did their bodies end up back here, but,
You could have that.
okay,
It
so
was a-
they just chose not to, or they?
Yes. Sure,
These
that was
guys
a
didn't
choice.
know where it was?
No, that was a choice. You all had that chance,
Okay,
sure. But his family decided he would stay there.
okay.
But those 3 graves over here,
And that's on Michigan Road, you said?
sure.
Okay.
And before Memorial Day, I go to artificial flowers, you know.
Mhm.
The little village of Poteau, there's, well, there, that's in maybe Kirkwood or somewhere where, this is Jackie, Van Dyne's daughter, me and the librarian. This is that gal, her name is Lorraine. Now, she's over here by Van Dyne's grave with her parents. And I had a message. She's reading the message. Her dad is on kneeling down. Well, she's reading that to the family.
Mhm.
And this is the picture that they're holding my picture. They take my picture along and they even have a picture of that, of me there by that gravestone. They said, now you have been there.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what it says on the back
What
here.
is it? Oh, okay.
Now you've been to Van's Grove.
Yeah,
Or grave?
one time I said, when you go there again, would you bring me a little tuft of grass? They did that. I got the dead grass from his grave. But anyway, this Lorraine from Marquette, she went to Poteau. And there they were waiting for her because in her letter she says they were excited for me to get there, and she said, not because of me, she said because of you, because they knew I had been a gunner in Van Tyne's tank. They created a little park in Poteau that's only about a dozen houses, intersection, and they got a little park there, they call it the Van Tyne Park. And it's all military equipment. Now there's a sign there, you can't read it, Van Tyne there, here you can.
Oh, they have a tank.
Here, there you can read it.
Truman Elvin.
Okay,
Okay, this is a tank, but what is this?
the propeller. It's a propeller from something,
Okay.
I think, has to be. From an airplane that was shot down. This is Lorraine, and that's Jackie, not Jackie, not the daughter, but runs that little museum. They're holding my picture up to show them that I was there. And I sent them a bigger picture, and I sent them a book from our division. It cost me $23 to send that book.
Over to Europe?
Yeah, it's a big history book, but there was it.
Museum at Poteau.
There's Jackie, the daughter, Van Tyne's daughter that died.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're getting to the end here now.
What's that one?
I hope you know about Iwo Jima.
Yes.
You know a little bit about Iwo Jima.
Yep.
You took that famous photograph there.
Mm-hmm.
The last guy that was living lived where?
Oh, now that I don't know.
Indigo,
Okay,
Wisconsin.
yes.
My daughter lives there.
Okay.
Sent me all the pictures,
Right.
newspaper things whenever there'd be something in there.
Mm-hmm.
They made a movie, Flags of Our Fathers.
Right.
He wrote a book.
Yes.
Clint Eastwood made the movie.
Mm-hmm.
October 18th, 2006, they were going to have the premiere showing of that movie in Indigo, Wisconsin, and a reception. I was invited. My wife too. Preston Jones in our county is Register of Deeds.
Okay.
Okay, it's my nephew. He's got a brother that's an undertaker in O'Connell Falls. My sister is a decent gal and writes all cards to everybody. She gets 43 cards on her birthday back, but she's always doing that. She lives in O'Connell Falls. And her husband died, they had 4 kids when these kids were young, and I was like a second dad to them. They lived in Reedsville.
Okay.
And she raised those kids, and they're all decent. Preston is a Register of Deeds. This guy here is Undertaker, a beautiful undertaking thing in O'Connell Falls. And Gene Jones had a Caterpillar sales and service thing in Marquette, Michigan, where they sold all the equipment to the mines.
Sure. Okay.
Really decent people. Anyway, Greg Jones, the undertaker. Bradley was an undertaker.
Okay.
Nice place up there. So Greg Jones knew those guys, and he knows I like military things. He got me tickets to go there for the reception. They already had the little searchlights out in front there, just like they do in Hollywood, you know.
Wow.
And the reception was about 2 hours long. Saw the movie, walked out. We sat there, looked at people walking out, small theater. And Bradley family was just over there. So then we walked out together, and I just got behind Mrs. John Bradley, and kind of dark in there going up a hill. I kind of took her by the elbow and thanked her for what she did. And she said, well, she didn't really do anything. And I said, no, mothers usually don't, do they? And anyway, talked for a little while. And then Greg Jones's wife was there with a camera. And I says, could I have a picture with you? And she says, sure. So we took this picture. There she is. This is John Bradley, wife of the last guy that raised the flag on the Iwo Jima. I got a bottle of water that they gave out. I had a couple of them that were souvenirs with the label on there and everything. So
Sure.
did that.
Neat.
You get the Herald Times?
Yes?
Did you see a letter in there from me recently? 2 weeks?
Was it 2 weeks? Okay.
3?
Yeah.
We're getting toward the end now. Be patient.
Wow.
Esox lucius, that name for pike. Thought of it.
So do you own your own boat?
Not anymore. Made a mistake. I traded it for a canoe. But I can live with that. I was going to read this at our Congregational Life Committee. A preacher sits there with us. I'm going to show it to you. You're going to like it, most of it. What would the preacher say about that?
Well, I don't know about the last part, but
Well, that's what I mean, the last part. It's a nice poem.
yes. Yes, it is.
So anyway, to wrap this all up, one of the kids said, I talked to the 5th grade at St. John's School.
Okay.
Because Preston Jones's wife is a teacher. So I got an in there,
Good.
talked to the kids. One kid says, do you ever win anything? I says, you mean awards of that? I says, I went over there and helped them buy him. I says, I'm glad you asked me that. I says, I did. I says, you know what I got? I got a chance to come home to my little town and a place where I can vote and I can protest and I can get a job and I can go anywhere without traveling or that. Well, that's what I got.
That's what you got.
And that's the most important thing in our lives. That's what I got.